Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.
Good morning everyone. Today we are going to have the Hindu analysis of 19th August 2021. Let us see which are the important articles from today's The Hindu newspaper. Yes, these are the important developments. First of all, we will take overview of all these developments and we will discuss them one by one in detail and take input for our examination. First article on page number 6, editorial page, it is talking about the new scheme to boost exports. Commerce Ministry has recently notified this new scheme so as to increase our export share and boosting, or we can say that the exports can be the important engine to boost our economic growth in the country. So the analysis regarding that significance of the scheme and further analysis how exports can be helpful here to boost economic growth in the country. Now this is important from GS3 paper economy part. Next article, behavioral changes in police personnel. Okay, so on page number 7, a very good article written by experts in the police field. We can say that the civil services reforms, part of civil services reform, but it is talking about the behavioral reforms that are required in police personnel. The context here is that the women probational officer from National Police Academy has been let's say awarded as the exceptional candidate and commanded the POP at NPA this year as well as last year. So the context of this article is that one, and then the article is talking about the challenges that police personnel are facing or police system overall, and it is talking about the behavioral changes that are required from the police personnel. So this is important from GS2 paper governance part as well as GS4 paper ethics part, and those who are having public administration subject, personnel management is part of their syllabus. Okay, next, Olympic Games and sports ethics. Now yes, we were expecting this particular article and it is on page number 7. It talks about how we are looking at the sports from the commercial aspect, at the same time sports being the beginning, the basis of nationalism. Okay, and how it affects the athletes, sports personnel. At the same time, we have to understand which are the values that are involved in the sports ethics, and we need to pursue sports as a part of human excellence rather than a commercial good or on the lines of nationalism. This is how the article is discussing about the sports ethics. It is having the context of recently conducted or held Olympic Games in Japan. Okay. Yes. Next is technology to help protect United Nations peacekeepers. So peacekeeping mission, recently there was a debate held, open debate held under the India's presidencyship at UNSC on the topic of peacekeeping missions, and here the technological platform in collaboration with United Nations has been launched, Unite Aware. It is technological platform to help peacekeeping mission, especially regarding the positioning system and we can say that the locations and positions, all these pinpointed positions are to this technological platform will help them in this regard. Okay, so this is important from international relations perspective, GS2 paper. And finally, prelims related development, it is talking about, let's say, our cabinet has cleared ratification for this Kigali amendment to Montreal Protocol. At the same time, it is also mentioning about India's NDCs, nationally determined contributions to Paris Agreement. Okay, so again environment section, basics about all these things will cover here. And finally, practice prelims MCQs on today's current affair. Okay, let us go into details of all these articles. First article, a delayed intervention. On page number 6, this editorial is having the context regarding launch of new scheme by Commerce Ministry, remission of duties and taxes on exported products, RODTEP. This particular scheme is notified by Commerce Ministry. Why the word used delayed intervention? Because we were expecting such scheme. Why? new scheme? Because earlier schemes like merchandise export rebate scheme, okay, so actually these merchandise exports and service export schemes which were there under the trade policy that we had earlier, trade policy, so that was, let's say, disputed by many countries at World Trade Organization, because it to some extent affected the WTO norms, and therefore the dispute settlement body at WTO had struck down these two schemes. And now the government has come up with the new scheme with the new norms, and the government is confident enough that at WTO it satisfies the norms of WTO, multilateral body, World Trade Organization. Now what is this new scheme? This new scheme is about rebate, or we can say tax rebate or duties which are levied on exported products to the exporters. Now this is going to be helpful for the exporters for different products. We are talking about the merchandise here, and it almost covers 65% of the total products, or we can say 2/3 of exports from the country. Though we can understand that some of the sectors have been exempted. Okay, so exceptions under the scheme, for example, steel sector, pharma sector. Okay, so these sectors have been exempted from this particular scheme. We can understand that steel and pharma sector, they are surplus, or we can say that they are having more export proficiency, or they lead India's exports, so they may not be needing these tax rebates. Rather, the other sectors require the tax rebates here. That's why maybe the exemptions are given here. Now the exemption rate, tax exemption or rebate rates vary from around 0.3% to 4.3%. So this is how the range of this around 65% of total exports product, or we can say that around 8,000 products are covered under this scheme. Okay, so we have to understand the significance of this particular scheme. Recently our Prime Minister has said that we need to scale up our exports this year by or up to $400 billion, and this to some extent provided impetus to these policy initiatives and the new schemes in the export sector. Fine. At the same time, India is looking to reignite free trade pact negotiations with countries like Australia, UK, EU, European Union and US. Okay, and we can understand that these countries where the vaccination campaign has been very successful, and the economies are now gaining back their economic recovery in these countries, and therefore we need to trap, or we can say tap, the potential that we have. For example, many advanced economies look to go beyond China to service domestic consumption demand, and India should come forward here. India should take this opportunity. And for that purpose, we need to boost our export sector. Okay, so this is good thing. Along with that, domestic consumption is still fragile, and thus private investment are unlikely to take off in the economy. So we know that there are 4 engines of economic growth. General theory in the economy suggests that there are 4 engines. Which are these 4 engines? First, we can say the private consumption or domestic consumption, we can say. Second, private investment. Third, public expenditure or the government expenditure. Public expenditure, we call it as government expenditure. And fourth, exports. exports from economy or country. So these are considered as 4 engines of economic growth. At present, what we are witnessing is there are lower levels of private consumption, though we can understand that the festival season is coming up and that may boost up the consumption, but the recovery of Indian economy is fragile. The consumption, the people are not, let's say, doing the expenditure, consuming the consumable products because of fragile nature of economic recovery at present, and therefore it will also affect the private investment. The private consumption will boost the demand in the economy as it is fragile, and therefore the demand is also of fragile nature in the economy, and that's why the private sector is wary of investment in the economy to expand their capital investment in the economy. Okay, so these two are not working to boost the economic growth at present. So what government is focusing on other two aspects. First, public expenditure. Like for example, recently on 15th August Independence Day speech, our Prime Minister announced that the infrastructure projects will be undertaken. Huge investment will be done in the infrastructure projects. Right, so this is basically about public expenditure. This will boost the demand in the economy, and that may in future will increase the private consumption as well as private investment. At the same time, such schemes will help to boost the export sector. So the government is banking on these two engines of economic growth at present. Okay, you should be specific in your answer writing these we can say that the economic aspects here. So GS3 paper economy part, you can focus on that. Fine. So public capital spending and exports are two growth engines that the government is focusing at present. Fine. Any question here? Yes. Now the police we need, on page number 7 the article is written with the context that Ranjita Sharma, IPS probationer from National Police Academy this year batch, bagged the honor of commanding the passing out parade at NPA. Now this is the proud moment. The similar manner, last year also a woman probationer officer has been selected to command the POP. So basically what we have to understand is the qualities that the best probationer in the police personnel, or we can say National Police Academy that trains these IPS officers. The best probationer award recognizes good conduct, empathy and quick reflexes. Now these unique values or qualities as a part of, we can say, aptitude as well as attitude of police personnel as a part of civil servants is required, and this is what is going to help them in real life service, or we can say that dealing with challenging situations, right? So good conduct, empathy and quick reflexes are required as part of, we can say, the qualities of any good police officer, especially those are at higher echelons like IPS officers, or we can say at the start they are superintendent of police of district having the independent charge. So they require such kind of qualities. At the same time, we should understand that India is one of the country which entrusts independent responsibility to IPS officers even in the early years of their induction. So such qualities are more required as they are given such more responsibility. Okay, the high responsibility is given to them, and that's why they require such qualities also. But what we are witnessing at present is like the distressing to note the declining level of integrity among the senior IPS officers who are expected to be the role models for their junior colleagues. That means the IPS officers who are inducted, they may be having a good character, or we can say a high level of integrity, but the role modeling by the senior officers is also required to continue that integrity in the service. Okay, so this is actually missing. For example, here you can give the example of Maharashtra DCP, or we can say, sorry, not DCP, police commissioner charged, or there are some allegations of corruption against Maharashtra police commissioner recently, and the nexus with the home minister. So all these actually tint the image of the overall police as an institution. Okay, and the senior police officers who need to be act as a role model, this provides a very weak picture in front of new probationers that are getting inducted into the service. At the same time, what does an average citizen want from police? So average citizen, expectation from the citizen. What do we expect from the citizen? As a common citizen from the police, we expect that the police should act in a free and fair manner. But what we experience, sometimes the police favor the rich but not the poor. They favor the privileged, not the unprivileged, right? So we see some kind of, let's take casteist aspect, religious aspects that are involved in treatment with the people by the police personnel in the police stations or even outside the police stations. So the aspect of fair treatment is missing here. As a common citizen, we expect that from police personnel. We expect that they should act in a, we can say, fair, in a free manner, without any, let's say, pressure from the politicians or local political leaders, right? So, or the influencing personnel. So basically, the free and fair treatment is actually missing. The second aspect we should understand here is that they should act with the service motive, not to make people fear. What we at present observe is that the common people fear about the police personnel. This is colonial era mindset that we are carrying forward here. Okay, so what we require, there is need of behavioral change on behalf of police personnel, that they are servants of the people and not masters here. Okay, and for that purpose they need to act in a compassionate manner, empathetic manner. So compassionate behavior is required from them. Okay, so all these aspects are required. Average citizen expect that, but we are actually missing that. At the same time, we should understand that the crimes against women, here example you can give here. So still women are not considered safe in the country. The crime rate is very high, and it is responsibility of police personnel to protect women. And here to some extent the societal aspects, prejudices towards women, they creep in the police institution also, in the police behavior also. They actually delay in reporting or filing the FIR. Sometimes they do not file the FIR also. They have some kind of patriarchal attitude in their behavior. They say that it is because of your mistake all these things are happening. So all these things should be changed here. Behavioral change is required. Finally, we should also understand the issues with management of police personnel, especially regarding the postings and transfers. So yes, we can understand that in a democratic country like India, the political executives are the masters of civil servants, and therefore they are responsible for postings and transfers of the police personnel also as a part of civil servants. And therefore what happens is, those police personnel who are acting in favor of ruling party or those leaders, they get a good posting, good transfers transfers to good, let's say, cities, metro cities, and the other personnel who have been honest, they are given the hard posting. This has been the observation by the ARC report also, ARC second report. So this should change actually, and one of the Supreme Court judgment, especially for DCP and police commissioners, so at that level there is need of selection by the state governments from the 3 nominees that are there by UPC. This is good development in terms of police management, police personnel management. Now India needs a police force that is responsive, respected, and not one that is feared. That is what we are talking about. Okay, so they need to be responsible, responsive, and not we can say respected, not to be feared by the common citizen. What we have at present is the common, most of the people are feared. They do not respect police personnel. They respect out of fear. We know about this, right? Somewhere deep in our mind also, this is the mentality that we have towards police personnel, right? So this is these changes are required. We are expecting question regarding police reforms either in GS2 paper or ethics paper also. Fine? Okay. Now, why we watch sports? There is one article on page number 7. So GS4 paper, ethics, applied ethics is a part of ethics, and sports ethics is a part of applied ethics. Okay, so values that are involved in the sports ethics, for example, fairness, equality, respect, mutual respect, we can say, sportsmanship, competition, these are the values. Okay, equality, fairness, mutual respect, sportsmanship, competition, or fair competition, we can say. So all these you can mention whenever the straightforward question is asked. But why the article is written, the context about this is Olympic Games recently happened, and how the pressure by the athletes, especially the athletes, sports personnel from India in that Olympic contingent. So how they handle this pressure? We need to understand the problems first, that as a society we see sports as a commercial product, right? So for example, the IPL games of cricket, cricket is completely, now we observe it as a commercial game. At the same time, we are also looking at the other sports like football is there, or even in India, kabaddi, tennis, all these are now seen as the commercial sports, and not as a, let's say, the individuals pursuing excellence in their own fields. Okay, this is the major problem. At the same time, we see victory as the ultimate purpose of the sports. Okay, and that's why the sportsmanship changes to gamesmanship. There is fine difference between these two. Gamesmanship talks about winning at any cost, and that results into adopting unfair means. Unfair means. Okay, for example, in cricket, ball tampering. If we are talking about the athletic events, then there is doping. Okay, so such kind of drugs are taken to win the game, right? So this is gamesmanship, and as a society we see victory as the ultimate purpose of the sports. This is the problem. At the same time, sports is being as a vehicle of nationalism. This is specifically, we are talking about the Olympic Games. So the founder of Olympic Games, the French authority at that time, okay, during the late 19th century, when the Olympic Games were instituted, it was being considered as, let's say, not on the national lines, rather there is agglomeration or meeting of these sports personnel competing in a fair manner without any national background. It was expected that, and this was seen in the 1896 Olympic Games, where a German and a British tennis player, they won the gold medal by playing together. Okay, so this is how it was expected, but later on what happened is the nationalism or the national aspect took root in the Olympic Games, and the athletes were divided on the lines of nationalities. They were playing on behalf of the country, and that's why athletes had more responsibility, not only as a sports person but to win the medal for the country. This created pressure. For example, if you are looking at our athletes or sports personnel, they have some kind of pressure behind them. We have to win the medal for our country. And under this pressure, many a times the sports personnel are not able to perform at those international levels. Okay, so the problem is this one. Now, what is the true value of sports? As a way forward, we should understand this. The sports is pursuit of human excellence. The sports is the pursuit of human excellence. For example, the gold medal, the javelin thrower from India at Olympic Games. So what he is pursuing, he is targeting to beat his own earlier record. This is how he wants to excel in himself. He wants to, let's say, excel or find the highest level of excellence in his own capabilities in that field. This is what the sports is about. Okay, every sport we are talking here. Fine. At the same time, sports help establish moral function for the society. Why? It promotes equality. It promotes respect. It promotes happiness. It promotes fairness. And this acts as a moral function for the society. Okay, so from time to time, sports have been important cultural part of the society, cultural aspect of the society. Okay, since ancient times this has been going on. Okay, so cultural identity of the sports is very important. At the same time, it accords a path towards freedom, towards self-expression and to self-respect. So athletes or sports personnel, basically they are doing this as an expression of freedom, as an expression of, we can say, self-respect, or they are expressing self on those platforms. They want to express their capabilities, their aptitude, their excellence on those platforms. Okay, this is what the sports is about. Fine. So as a way forward, what we need to understand here is we need to see sports as cultural entity rather than national or on the lines of nationalism. Okay, pride is fine. Pride is important value of sport. Okay, so pride is fine, but taking pride ahead on its part to the nationalistic jingoism, we call it as. Okay, we have seen that in the test matches that are going on in UK at present between India and Britain. So what is happening? The people, the spectators who are there, they are actually not being spectators, rather they are supporters to their own individual teams. So we need to be acting as spectators. What is difference between two here? The supporters only support one team or one athlete, one participant, but spectator respects the winner, respects all equally, all participants equally. It respects the sport, it respects whatever the outcome from that game is there. This is how we need to be spectator, not the supporter in the sport. Okay, and finally we can also say that as a society, sports should not be seen from commercial aspect only. This is the problem. More the sports become commercial entity, more the problems will be there. Okay, so all these aspects can be written. A straightforward question can be asked. Discuss the ethical issues in the sports sector in India. According to you, what is the true value of the sport? So basic and specifically about India's sports sector. Such kind of question can be asked here. Fine? Yes. Now, technology to help protect United Nations peacekeepers. Jai Shankar. So there was open debate on peacekeeping missions. Okay, under India's presidentialship that is going on this month in UNSC. So open debate on technology and peacekeeping. Our external affairs minister had rolled out the technological platform in partnership with United Nations. This is called Unite Aware to help enhance the safety of UN peacekeepers. You should understand that India is the largest contributor to UN peacekeeping missions. India is the largest contributor in United Nations peacekeeping missions. So he outlined a framework for securing the peacekeepers on this platform. So which are the points like deployment of proven, cost-effective, field serviceable technologies that were environmentally friendly in their construction. So you can use these words in your answers if it is specifically about peacekeeping mission. Peacekeeper needed sound information and intelligence, and for that purpose this Unite Aware is launched, technological platform. For example, the precise positioning and overhead visualization, such kind of, let's say, intelligence and information is required. This Unite Aware technological platform will provide this. At the same time, investment in capacity building and training of peacekeeping personnel. For that purpose, a memorandum of understanding is signed between India and United Nations in support of partnership for technology in peacekeeping. Okay, so this is how you should understand. Our external affairs minister had outlined the framework for securing the peacekeeping or peacekeepers here, United Nations peacekeepers. Okay, so GS2 paper, international relations, this is important. Finally, prelims related development. So yes, yesterday Union Cabinet approved ratification of Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. Kigali Amendment to the Montreal Protocol. So this is important. Kigali Agreement or Amendment was agreed in 2016. Montreal Protocol. What is Montreal Protocol? It is about reducing and phasing out all the ozone depleting substances. Ozone depleting substances. Montreal Protocol, it is binding. Okay, Montreal Protocol was adopted in 1987. Remember the year. Before that, in 1985, there was Vienna Convention about this ozone depleting substances, and later on the Montreal Protocol in 1987 was adopted. Fine. And there the important ozone depleting substances like CFCs, HFCs, 6. So all these were phased out, but hydrofluorocarbons were replaced these CFCs later on in the refrigerators and air conditioners. But recently it was found that these HFCs are potent greenhouse gases. Along with that, they are also to some extent ozone depleting substances, At the same time, they are volatile organic compounds, VOCs. Three things. First, ozone depleting substances. Second, greenhouse gases. And third, volatile organic compounds. All of them, HFCs are there, categorization. Fine. So they contribute to global warming, being the greenhouse gas. So this particular Kigali Agreement talks about phasing out of these HFCs by 80 to 85% of the present levels by 2040 in a phased manner by different countries. So India in 2016 committed to phasing down the HFCs in 4 steps. You should be aware about India's commitment also. By 2032, we are going to reduce this by 10%, then 20% in 2037, and 30% in 2042, and 80% in 2047. 5 years addition since 2032. Remember these facts. This is important for prelims examination. Article also mentions about India's NDCs to Paris Agreement. Okay, so nationally determined contributions. This is also important, though we can understand that this is since 2016 in news and everyone knows about this. Reducing the emission intensity of GDP by 33 to 35% by 2030 below 2005 levels. First. Second, increase in share of non-fossil based energy resources, that is renewable energy, to 40% of the installed electric power capacity by 2030. So we have to increase our share of renewable energy to 40% of India's energy mix. And finally, to create additional cumulative carbon sinks of 2.3 to 3 gigatons carbon CO2 equivalent, okay, carbon dioxide equivalent carbon sink through additional forest and tree cover by 2030. And India is on the line, or we can say ahead of meeting these targets. India is ahead of meeting this target. India is only country in G20 which is on the line, or we can say ahead of meeting these Paris Agreement targets. Okay, so this is information is sufficient for prelims examination. Now on the basis of this, what should be answer to this question?
So answer 2 and 3 are yes, sir. Option A.
Okay, yes. So let us see what the question is talking about in the command. Yes, consider the following statement and we have to find the incorrect statement. Okay, yes. So Kigali Amendment is amendment done to Kyoto Protocol in 2016. This is incorrect. It is not about Kyoto Protocol, rather amendment to Montreal Protocol. Kyoto Protocol is about, we can say, reducing greenhouse gases. It is about climate change or global warming, right? It is about global warming. But Montreal Protocol is about ozone depletion, and Kigali Agreement or amendment is to this Montreal Protocol. It is about phasing out of hydrofluorocarbons. Yes, this is correct. HFCs are greenhouse gases. This is also correct. So we have to find the incorrect statement. So many times students, when they are not looking at the command, they may get the wrong answer 2 and 3 only. But here the answer should be 1 only, because 1 only is the incorrect statement here. So yes, very good. Your answer is correct. Fine. So these were important developments. Any doubt that we have in them? Yes, those students who are also watching this on YouTube, you can ask your questions in the comment box. We'll try to address them in the next lectures. Fine. Thank you.
Contact us to avail the combo offer of General Studies and Public Administration optional with 20% discount.